Good evening, afternoon, whatever it is, everybody. Brian Neubert here from goldenblack.com, live in Mackey Arena, this time following Purdue's 94 to 84 loss to number 16 Wisconsin here in Mackey Arena. This is your goldenblack.com rap video. It's brought to you by our friends at the Purdue Club Hotel. Not very articulate today, apparently. Thank you to them for their support, as always. We appreciate it. Pretty damaging loss here for Purdue. In the Big Ten championship race, obviously, you don't want to lose home games. This is Purdue's second home loss. The first one I thought was largely, if not entirely, circumstantial, given the schedule at the time. We've covered that. This one had nothing to do with anything other than Wisconsin just being better than Purdue. And that's not something you have said very often here the last few years, where somebody just flat out beats Purdue. But that's exactly what happened here in Mackey Arena. Wisconsin's good. They are good, and they are sneaking up on everybody in this Big Ten championship race here, and played like a contender here today, while Purdue showed some real slippage from what it was last month, from what it was a couple weeks ago. I think, as will be covered ad nauseum on our site, from everyone who covers this, the reason more than anything Purdue was in a position here to win a third straight Big Ten title, and I did say was, but so I don't want to make it sound like that's past tense. Purdue can still pull off some big road wins here and get back in this. But the reason they were, however you want to term it, they were in that position was because of defense. It's great that you have three of the preeminent offensive players in the Big Ten. You have two first-team All-Big Ten guys, maybe the numbers 1 and 2 players prior to today, at least, in terms of the Big Ten Player of the Year race. But Purdue was where Purdue was because of defense, because they turned into this really stifling, really disruptive defensive team that forced a ton of turnovers, kept point totals down, and then benefited from an offense that was galvanized by defense on top of its natural advantages that it had as an offensive basketball team. That was Purdue. That was not Purdue today, not by any stretch of the imagination. There had been some warning signs. I didn't necessarily scream them from the hilltops, because I think every game is different. But there had been some warning signs, starting with Purdue really not being able to stop Trey Galloway and Umar Ballo at IU, or against IU here in Mackey Arena. Purdue really had to fight to win that one. And then, Iowa scores a lot of points on everybody, but there were stretches in that game where it seemed like Purdue was, I don't want to say content to, but they were just trading baskets with Iowa. And then Michigan the other day in Ann Arbor, there were some stretches there where the trading baskets thing seemed real. Today, Purdue, started off well enough. They started the game off okay defensively against a very good offensive team. And the fast break points that came from that defensive start really mattered. Purdue had 8 fast break points kind of right off the bat. And then Wisconsin started making threes left and right. In the second half, Purdue had to extend its defense. It seemed like, I'll have to go back and watch it, but that stands to reason, and it seems to align with what I recall in my fuzzy memory. But it seemed like Purdue had to extend to make sure that the three-pointers were accounted for, and that busts their whole defense. Their defense is based on being compact, having easy access to help, things like that, and that broke their defense wide open, exposed guys to drives, exposed them to fouls, and at that point it was just the horses were out of the barn, as they say. And Purdue was in a shootout. And what happens in shootouts is you can't afford to not score. And there was a 2 minute and 26 second stretch to end the first half that took a 9-point Purdue lead down to just 1 at the half. And then there was a 2 minute and 32 second. That's all it takes in a shootout. 2 minutes and 32 seconds. Purdue goes scoreless in the second half. Wisconsin turns that into an 11-0 run. That is the risk you run when you play a really, really good offensive team that can shoot, that can really shoot, and has a real playmaker in John Tonje, who, I don't think anybody heard of coming into this season. He just kind of pops up out of nowhere, and he's one of the Big Ten's best players, and he just completely dominated Purdue today. Made some really tough shots in the second half as Wisconsin went only 12 of 30 from 3. It seemed like they were about 19 of 30. But they were 20 of 22 from 2-point range, so the two things kind of go hand in hand. But Purdue couldn't afford to not score. They had to match baskets with Wisconsin. That is a bad position to be in. You're just asking for trouble, but that was the nature of Purdue's defensive scrambling and flailing in this game, while Wisconsin was really good offensively. And it burned them. Those two stretches completely changed the game. Purdue had this at 9 in the first half after Kamari McGee's ejection. It seemed like, okay, Purdue's going to build this out a little bit here. This is probably going to be a 15-point game at halftime, something like that. Probably will settle in around Purdue winning by 10. You've seen that sort of thing so many times in this arena, and it woke Wisconsin up, to be honest with you. They just started making shots. Purdue went scoreless for that one stretch, and then the second half was just a landslide. 58 second-half points for Wisconsin. They had done this to people before. Remember, they blitzed Indiana to open that game in Madison 24-4. They scored 116 points on Iowa. Now, Iowa has that tendency as a program to be a multiplier for your point total, but 116 points is a hell of a lot of points. So it just tells you what this Wisconsin team is capable of. And when Purdue doesn't get turnovers and doesn't get easy baskets in transition, that was such an important part of what they were doing. This kind of thing can happen, and that is precisely what happened. I do think this was, Wisconsin being on heater, but I also think this was a reflection of something that's been sort of bubbling up here a little bit, that I think people are starting to find answers to what Purdue's been doing defensively. They changed their system. They've done some different things this year defensively. People in the first half of the Big Ten season didn't have answers for it, and they turned the ball over a ton. They took a lot of bad shots. They didn't shoot well. They weren't very efficient against Purdue. They didn't score a lot, and that's really the most important part of it. But the turnovers were really important for Purdue because they were leading to offense, and the good defense led to good offense. And good defense and good offense, that's an important combination to have, obviously. But you're starting to see people kind of trigger Purdue's post help there on the baseline and have everything set up to make the pass out and then make the second pass for a three-pointer. You look at how many three-pointers the last couple of games Purdue's given up from the corner. That's because when somebody posts up, goes baseline, and the help comes from the baseline, they're leaving those guys in the corner. And when you're patient and you make the right pass and you're well prepared, you're going to have that shot. And if Purdue rotates effectively, chances are they're playing 1-on-2. And then this guy here can pass to this guy here, who then is open to. And if somebody rotates to him, they're scrambling so that guy can drive. There's going to be a test on that later. So people are figuring out, I think, why it took so long, I don't know. Because this is what Nebraska does. I mean, it's not like people haven't been playing against this. But I think people have started to. It's a testament to the coaching and scouting in the Big Ten that, it's always about reacting to the reaction. So Purdue now has to be that much better in what it's doing to offset the adjustments and the familiarity these opponents are now going to have with what they're doing defensively. But Purdue had no answers today, and Wisconsin took full advantage by really raking Purdue over the coals here. And the fouling issue is becoming a bit of a thing. Now, the foul total in this game, Purdue has called for 7 fewer fouls, or 7 more fouls than Wisconsin. It's not the same thing as Michigan, because this was all about Purdue not being able to contain the dribble. The Michigan stuff was all on rebounds and screening and things like that. That they're two different things. There was causation behind the foul disparity in this game. Purdue was spread out defensively. They were chasing shooters everywhere, and they were compromised. And when you're behind the ball, there's going to be fouls. When you're scrambling to try to stay in front of the ball, and your momentum's all going this way, and the guy wants to drive this way, there's going to be fouls. And that was the deal today. Purdue couldn't keep them off the line. This is why the bonus matters, guys. I talk a lot about the bonus. The bonus used to be a fixture of Purdue's offensive mix. They can't get there for some reason. They're either not drawing enough fouls, whatever it might be, but they can't get to the bonus. Meanwhile, they're fouling so much that Wisconsin gets to the bonus relatively early. And now not only are you trying to stop a team you can't stop, but now you can't bump them, because when you bump them, that's 2 points, because this is an 80% foul shooting team, and that's just easy points they don't have to earn. So really kind of a perfect storm here for Purdue. But one, I don't know what to say other than Purdue just got exposed to a certain extent, buzzsawed. I don't know what the proper word would be here, but I think you got to give Wisconsin a lot of credit here. I think all their metrics offensively and defensively both showed up today. This was probably the best offensive team in the Big Ten, even though maybe they weren't scoring as many points as Michigan State and Purdue were, but they're one of the most efficient teams. They're an 80% foul shooting team. They were pretty much a 40% three-point shooting team, best in the league. And when you have a team that can shoot the way this Wisconsin team can shoot, they're never out of the game. And that was exactly what you saw when Purdue went up 9 on its home floor, got this crowd into it, and as I said before, it looked like it was going to play out a certain way. It did not play out that way. It played out very differently. But Purdue's, still got a chance probably here to salvage a couple of big wins down the stretch, maybe still claim a share of that Big Ten title. This one hurt because home games are givens, or should be givens when you're trying to win a championship in this particular conference especially. But perhaps there's an opportunity here for Purdue to, I don't know, I'm not a psychologist, I'm just a takesmith on the internet here. Maybe there's an opportunity here for Purdue to really regather itself defensively and understand what got them here, and I'm not saying they're not trying hard. I'm not insinuating that whatsoever. But the defense has been starting to slip, and then right off the edge of the cliff today. And I think that, you like that sound? Maybe this is an opportunity for them to, let's see, what cliche can I use here? Rally the troops, close ranks. I don't know. But to really, really get back to to the best they can, given that, the Big Ten has now seen everything they're trying to do defensively. Maybe this is an opportunity for them to get back to playing, or whatever, preparing, playing, whatever, understanding how important defense was to getting them to where they are, getting them to where they were, and just how big of a deal that was, and how much better offensively they are when they're good defensively. I'm not saying, and I'm walking a fine line here sounding condescending and whatever else, I'm not saying Purdue's not trying. I'm not saying they're not preparing. I'm just saying if there's a little bit extra there that can come back out, a renewed focus, whatever it might be, a scared straight sort of element, maybe this is that moment. I don't know. But again, there had been some modest warning signs going into this that Purdue was, starting to slip a little bit defensively, and I think today was the breaking point of all of that. And Now there's big games to come away from this arena. Here you've got Michigan State, you've got Indiana on the road. Not easy. Purdue's not winning shootouts in either of those places, I'll tell you that. So, really weird game. This is one last point I need to make here. So the good news is, right, Purdue only turns the ball over 4 times. Purdue out-rebounds Wisconsin. Purdue goes 10 of 22 from three-point range, which is excellent. And Purdue loses by 10. It's a very weird box score. Purdue gets more second chance points. Purdue gets more fast break points. Purdue loses by 10 because Wisconsin shoots 72% after halftime. Wisconsin scores 58 points in the second half. I don't really need to rehash all of this. Wisconsin only turns the ball over 3 times. That's a Wisconsin staple, a Big Ten tradition like no other. So this was a game where some of Purdue's metrics or their statistics really screamed victory. But it really went sideways in the second half. And so here's Purdue 11-4 in the Big Ten now. And need to finish things strong here these next couple weeks. So that's what I got from Purdue's 94-84. You scored 84 points on your home floor and didn't win. That's another one of those box score outliers that just screams victory. But so from Purdue's 94-84 loss to Wisconsin, this is Brian Neubert from goldenblack.com. Thank you for watching. Thank you for reading. Thank you for listening. And thank you for processing our materials, however it is you process our materials. And thank you once again to the Purdue Club Hotel for your support. We appreciate it as always. And I will talk to you again. I got a schedule in front of me for once. I will talk to you guys again on the 15th. No, today's the 15th. I will talk to you guys again, what is this, Tuesday night, February 18th from Michigan State. So thanks, everybody.